Commander Elias Grant sat quietly in the pilot's chair of the scout ship Horizon's Edge, staring at the starfield that stretched endlessly ahead. Space had always been a place of quiet, of mystery, and yet today it felt different. The navigation console was silent, except for the soft hum of the engines. But a blinking light on the communications panel demanded attention. Elias leaned forward, studying the readout. It was a signal unlike anything he had ever seen. Unlike the usual space traffic or routine distress calls, this one was irregular, fragmented, almost desperate. It came from the edge of human-controlled space, from a small, abandoned research station on the fringes of the Zithrian sector. "Commander," said Lieutenant Rena Vega, his second in command, her voice calm but cautious. "The signal is repeating, but it's weak. Whoever sent it, it's alive, at least for now." Elise's jaw tightened. Alive, yes. But for how long? He tapped a few keys on the console, trying to triangulate the source. The station's coordinates were isolated far from any major route. Whoever was sending the signal could be in serious trouble, or worse. "We should turn back," it suggested Vega, glancing at the star maps. "There's nothing for us out here but danger." Elias shook his head slowly. Humans didn't reach this far by running from danger. If someone or something is calling for help, we go. That's what we do. The crew exchanged glances. They had all heard Elias say this many times before. When others hesitated, he stepped forward. Courage wasn't reckless, it was deliberate. Today it would guide them into the unknown. The Horizon's Edge descended toward the derelict station, its hull reflecting the pale light of a distant star. The station itself was a hollow shell, scarred and blackened as though it had been through some violent storm. Panels were torn open, antennas bent or missing entirely. For a moment, silence reigned, and the emptiness felt almost alive watching them. "Docking clamps engaged," said Vega. "We're in position." Elias exhaled slowly. "All right, gear up. We move as a team. No one goes alone." They suited up, sealing their helmets with the familiar click that always brought a sense of safety in the cold vacuum of space. Each step toward the station was careful, measured, as though the floor itself might betray them. Inside, the air was stale, mechanical hums echoing faintly through the corridors. The lighting was dim, flickering in irregular bursts, revealing shadows that danced along the walls. Then they heard it. A faint movement, like a whisper, just beyond the next corner. Elias signaled for silence, raising a hand. "Stay sharp." Rounding the corner, they found her. She was small, fragile-looking, and entirely alone. Her skin shimmered. Faintly under the weak lights, a pale green that caught the eye and made her seem almost unreal. She froze when she saw them, eyes wide with fear. Her hands raised slightly, not in attack, but in warning. "Don't come closer," she said in careful, measured English. The words were accented, slightly musical, like nothing Elias had heard before. "Run now, please. You cannot stay here." Elias stepped closer, his hand open in a gesture of peace. "We're not here to fight. We received your signal. We're here to help." The alien's eyes flicked from him to the rest of the team, then back to him. "Help. No one helps. No one survives here. Leave before it comes." Elias tilted his head. "We don't leave people behind. Not if we can stop it. Not if we can save someone." The alien, he learned later her name was Lyra, stiffened at his words. Her species, the Valari, were peaceful by nature. They had avoided conflicts for centuries, trusting secrecy and caution over confrontation. Humans, she had learned, were unpredictable, often rushing into danger without thought. Yet here he was, stepping closer when every instinct screamed to flee. "You do not understand," she whispered, almost to herself. "It hunts, it destroys. Leave." But Elias did not move back. He studied her eyes, large, luminous, and full of fear. Yet beneath that fear, there was intelligence, bravery, and a quiet hope. It reminded him of why humans explored the stars in the first place, to find life, to reach out, to stand when others turned away. "Then show me," he said simply. "Show me what you're afraid of. We won't run." For a moment, Lyra hesitated. The silence stretched. Then, slowly, she lowered her hands. It was a small gesture, but it meant she was choosing to trust him more, at least to test whether he was foolish or brave. The machines. They came without warning, she said finally. They erased my station, my crew. Everyone. They seek all life in this sector. We hid. I hid. No one survives their attack. I should have run, but... She paused, looking at him with a mixture of confusion and awe. You do not run. Elias nodded. We stand where we are needed most. It's who we are. For the first time, a hint of relief crossed her face. I thought all humans were reckless, but you are different. Different, Elias asked, raising an eyebrow. She shook her head. Perhaps brave. Perhaps foolish. Perhaps both. The crew, meanwhile, had begun scanning the station for other threats. Everywhere they looked, the remnants of violence were clear. Burn marks scarred the walls. Broken equipment littered the corridors. And somewhere beyond the faint hum of the station's life support, the echo of the enemy lingered, mechanical, unfeeling, and relentless. Elias turned to his team. We don't know exactly what we're up against yet. We move cautiously, but we do not retreat. Lyra, show me what happened here. Tell me how to survive this place. She glanced at him, uncertain. If you stay, you may not survive. The hollow ones, they do not stop. They erase everything. We can face them together, Elias said firmly. Humans do not abandon others in danger. Not today, not ever. There was a long pause. Lyra's eyes flicked between him and the rest of the human crew. She had expected fear. She had expected them to run, just like everyone else. But she saw something else. Calm, focus, and an unshakable courage. Something her people rarely witnessed. Very well, she whispered. I will show you. But you must listen. You must follow my instructions exactly. If you fail. Her voice trembled slightly. All will be lost. Leah stepped closer. Then we won't fail. Lead the way. With cautious steps, Lyra guided them deeper into the ruined station. The air grew colder, the lights dimmer, the shadows longer. Machines had torn through this place with precision, leaving destruction in their wake. Every corner held danger, every hallway a possible trap. Yet as they moved forward, Elias felt something shift, not just in Lyra, but in his crew. There was a new sense of purpose, a spark of hope. Humans had always thrived on the impossible. They had always reached for the stars, not because it was safe, but because life itself demanded courage. And now in this cold, abandoned station at the edge of known space, they would prove it once more. Lyra led them to the station's central control room. Screens flickered with fragmented data, some still operational, others blackened and broken. Here, she said, pointing to a cracked console. This is where they first attacked. I survived by hiding. But they will return. Soon, you must prepare. Elias knelt beside the console, scanning the remaining data. We will need to work together, he said. Your knowledge of this place, our skills. Combined, we have a chance. She nodded slowly, still wary. Perhaps there is hope, but it is small. Very small. Small doesn't matter, Elias replied with a faint smile. Hope is never measured by size. It's measured by the courage to act when all seems lost. And with that, the first real connection was made between a human who refused to run and an alien who had always believed survival meant hiding. For the first time in many days, Lyra felt a glimmer of trust, a belief that someone would stand with her against the darkness coming. Outside, the void of space remained silent. But inside the ruined station, a new alliance was forming, a thread of hope that would grow stronger with every challenge ahead. Elias looked at her one last time before turning to his crew. We move carefully, we stay together, and we survive. That's what humans do. And now we all do it together. And for the first time, Lyra allowed herself to believe it might be true. The corridors of the ruined station echoed with every step of the human team as they followed Lyra deeper into the structure. The faint hum of the damaged life support systems and the flickering lights cast shadows that seemed to move, making the place feel alive in a dangerous way. Elias led the team, eyes scanning every corner, ready for the slightest movement. Lyra walked ahead, her slender frame moving with surprising speed and grace. She paused at intersections, listening, tilting her head as if she could hear the whispers of the machines themselves. "They are close," she whispered. "They can sense movement, energy, even life." "You must not make noise," Elias nodded. "Understood." Quiet but ready. The humans spread out carefully, maintaining sight lines with each other, while letting Lyra lead the way. Her species' technology was unlike anything humans had encountered before. A silent, elegant, precise. She guided them past damaged hallways and scorched chambers, explaining what each area once contained. "This station. It was research," she said softly. "We studied life from other systems, tried to understand the stars. But the hollow ones, they do not care. They destroy everything that moves." Lieutenant Vega, always pragmatic, asked the hollow ones. "What are they exactly?" Lyra's eyes darkened. "Machines, but not like yours. They are not built by hands. They are born of war, from energy and metal, programmed only to erase. They have no mind, no mercy. They adapt. They learn. And they do not stop." Elias's jaw tightened. Humans had faced dangers before, but the thought of a relentless, adaptive enemy was unnerving. Yet he did not show fear. Fear would only spread to the team. "Then we learn too," he said firmly. "We adapt together." Lyra glanced at him. For the first time, she saw not only bravery, but something deeper, humans' instinct to protect, to stand even against impossible odds. "You humans," she murmured. "You do not run, even when all hope is gone." Strange, but perhaps useful. The team reached the station's central laboratory, where the destruction was most evident. Machines had torn through walls, leaving jagged metal and broken panels scattered across the floor. Burn marks traced intricate paths along the surfaces, almost like the signature of an artist who painted only in destruction. "This is where my crew was taken," Lyra said quietly, her voice trembling. They did not survive." Elias placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "We won't let the same happen to anyone else. Not today. Not here." She looked at him, surprised by the firmness in his tone. You risk yourself so easily. Most of my kind would have left. Because most species flee," Elias replied. "Humans don't. We act, we stand. Even when it seems impossible, even when danger is all around us." A faint metallic sound echoed from the hall behind them. The team froze. Even the smallest noise was amplified in the hollow station. "They are here," Lyra whispered. "Already. The hollow ones have found us." Elias motioned for the team to take positions. He examined the lab for strategic points, weak spots they could use to their advantage, places to hide or slow the enemy. "We'll need to set up barriers," he said. "We can use the broken machinery, the walls, anything that can slow them." "Lyra, can your technology help?" She hesitated. "Perhaps, but only a little. Their adaptation is faster than anything I can deploy. You humans, you are bold to face them." "Boldness is different from recklessness," Elias said. "We calculate risks. We make every move count. That's why we survive." Together, the humans and Lyra began to fortify the laboratory. They used broken panels to block corridors, stacked crates to create cover, and repositioned remaining energy cells to power a few defensive systems. The work was tense and deliberate. Every sound, every movement could attract the machines. As they worked, Elias noticed Lyra watching him closely. "Why do you stay?" she asked quietly. "You know, this may be a trap. You know the danger? Why not retreat?" Elias paused, wiping sweat from his brow. "Because someone needs to step forward. Someone needs to stand when others cannot. That's what it means to be human. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it." She looked at him with a mix of awe and disbelief. "Your species is strange, fearless, foolish, but perhaps the galaxy needs you. A sudden crash echoed through the station. The team spun toward the sound, weapons ready. A shadow moved in the flickering light, a hollow one. Its metallic form gleamed under the damaged lighting. A strange combination of sleek design and raw brutality. Its eyes, if they could be called that, glowed faintly, scanning. Calculating. Vega fired a pulse rifle, striking the machine. Sparks flew, but it did not falter. The hollow one advanced relentlessly, unaffected by the human attack. Lyra stepped forward, activating a small device on her wrist. A field of shimmering energy flared, momentarily slowing the machine. Enough, Elia shouted. We need a plan. Don't waste energy on one at a time. He realized the situation was worse than they thought. One hollow one might be manageable, but the sound of others approaching suggested more were coming. They needed to act fast, or risk being overwhelmed. We need a choke point, Elias said, pointing to a narrow corridor. Force them through there. We can hold them for now. Lyra, can you help? Lyra nodded, fear and hope mingling in her eyes. I can redirect energy to slow them, but only briefly. You, humans, will have to act quickly. Together they moved into position. The team arranged their defenses, while Lyra prepared her device. Elias checked on each member, offering calm reassurance. We can do this. Stick to the plan. Trust each other. The first wave of machines appeared at the corridor entrance. They moved silently, fluidly, and with terrifying precision. Sparks flew as the humans fired. Energy shields activated, and Lyra's devices created brief barriers. The hollow ones adapted almost immediately, but the humans adjusted, changing their positions, timing their shots, and using the environment to their advantage. Elias noticed something remarkable. Lyra was learning too. She adjusted her devices faster than he expected, guided by the humans' actions, forming a collaboration neither species had experienced before. The battle was intense, but brief. The humans and Lyra managed to force the machines to retreat, at least temporarily. Silence returned, heavy and tense, with the station trembling from distant impacts as other hollow ones patrolled nearby, breathing heavily. Elias looked around at his team. They were shaken, but not broken. He turned to Lyra. You see now? He asked. Humans do not flee. We face what comes together. She nodded, still pale, but something in her eyes had changed. Respect, understanding, and a small spark of trust. Perhaps there is hope. Not many see the courage in humans. I underestimated you. Elias allowed himself a small smile. You're not the only one learning today. We'll survive this, but only if we work together. Trust isn't just about courage, it's about cooperation. About standing when others would turn away. For the rest of the day, they worked to repair some of the station's defensive systems, using both human and Valari technology. Lyra explained weak points, potential escape routes, and how to create diversions. Elias listened carefully, combining her knowledge with his experience and strategy. By nightfall, the station had a fragile sense of security. The immediate threat had passed, but Elias knew it was only temporary. The hollow ones were intelligent in their own way, relentless. And far from defeated, he stood in the central chamber with Lyra, watching the faint starlight through a cracked window. You know, he said quietly, most species run when danger comes. Humans, we don't. We step closer. That's why we survive. She looked at him, a mixture of wonder and disbelief. You risk yourself for strangers. For me? For your team? Why? Elias considered the question. Because life is worth the risk. Because courage inspires hope. And because sometimes, stepping closer is the only way to see the truth. If I ran, we'd never know what we could achieve together. For the first time since arriving at the ruined station, Lyra felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. Perhaps humans were reckless, yes, but they were also brave, loyal, and capable of more than her species could imagine. And perhaps, just perhaps with humans at her side, she might survive the coming storm. Outside, the station remained silent. But inside, humans and Valari prepared, united against a darkness that would not relent. And as night settled over the empty corridors, Elias knew one thing for certain. The Hollow Ones had found the wrong prey. Humans did not run. Humans faced the dark hand sometimes. The dark was wrong about who it hunted. The ruined station shuddered again, a deep vibration that ran through the walls and floor like a warning. Outside, in the endless black of space, tiny fragments of metal drifted lazily past the observation windows, remnants of the station's earlier destruction. But the humans in Lyra knew this calm would not last. Elias stood in the central chamber, his eyes scanning the faint blue light of the station's consoles. The Hollow Ones were clever. They did not act randomly. Each attack had purpose, strategy, and an eerie patience. And now, Elias realized, they were adapting faster than expected. "Commander, Lieutenant Vega said, her voice steady but tense. "They've scanned the station again. Their patterns are changing. Every time we trap one, the others avoid the same path. They're learning." Elias nodded. "I know. That's why we have to be faster, smarter. We can't just fight them head on. We need strategy, and we need to control the battlefield." Lyra's hands hovered over her wrist device, a faint glow reflecting in her eyes. "If I amplify the energy barriers here," she said, pointing to the northern corridor, "we can slow them down. But only for a short time. After that, they will adapt and find another way." Elias walked toward her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Then, we prepare multiple points. We create traps, distractions. We divide their focus. Humans fight together, yes, but we also think like hunters. And I believe you can help us do that." Her eyes widened. I have never worked with others like this. Usually we hide, avoid, survive alone. You face the enemy head on, with planning and hope. It is strange, yes, Elias said with a faint smile. But sometimes strange is what keeps you alive. The first sign of the Hollow One's return came as a faint hum, almost imperceptible, that grew steadily into a mechanical rhythm, precise and relentless. The team positioned themselves at strategic points in the station, ready to act. Lyra's devices shimmered faintly, casting narrow fields of energy that pulsed like the heartbeat of the station. "Remember," Elias said, looking at each member of the team, "don't fire unless you must. Use cover. Keep communication clear, and trust each other. We survive together, or not at all." A shadow passed across the window, followed by the unmistakable shapes of several Hollow Ones advancing toward the station's entrances. Their movements were deliberate, coordinated, almost intelligent in their simplicity. Elias could see how their sensors scanned every inch of the station, seeking life. Vega gritted her teeth. "They're faster this time. Too fast." "Then we slow them down," Elias replied. "Positions now." The humans in Lyra moved quickly, using barricades and remaining equipment to narrow the corridors and create choke points. Lyra activated her first energy field, and a shimmering wall of light appeared, forcing the nearest machine to stop and adapt. Sparks flew as its mechanical limbs struck the barrier, but the pause gave the humans a brief advantage. "Fire in 3, 2, 1. Elias shouted. Pulse rifles, plasma cutters, and energy blasters erupted simultaneously, hitting the machine from multiple angles. Sparks flew, metal bent, but the Hollow One did not collapse. Its adaptive design allowed it to shift, finding weak points in seconds. "Move," Elias yelled, dragging a team member behind a metal console. "Don't let them surround you." Lyra adjusted her device again, pushing more energy into the barrier. They are learning faster than before." She shouted, voice trembling slightly. "We must be clever." Elias nodded. "We will. Watch and learn, adapt like them, but with thought. We are not machines. We can outthink them." The team fought in a fluid, almost synchronized motion. Humans and Valari technology combined to create an intricate defense. The Hollow Ones struck again and again, adapting to each barricade, each ambush. Yet the humans countered with strategy and unity. They did not panic. They moved as one organism, each member trusting the others to hold their position. Amid the chaos, Lyra noticed something remarkable. Lyra, who had always believed survival meant hiding, now moved with purpose, adjusting devices, signaling the team, and even confronting the machines directly. Each time a Hollow One approached a critical point, she manipulated energy fields to redirect it, buying precious seconds. You are learning, Elias said, barely pausing to reload. She glanced at him, sweat beading on her forehead. I see how you work. Together, we are stronger. Perhaps I underestimated humans. A new threat appeared, a larger Hollow One, taller and bulkier than the others, with armored plating that reflected the faint light of the station. It advanced deliberately, crushing debris under its limbs. The team froze for a brief moment, realizing the danger was greater than they had anticipated. Elias took a deep breath. That one is different. Heavier armor, stronger sensors. But it moves slowly. We can use that. Draw it into the corridors, and we can trap it. Lyra, can you reinforce the barriers? She nodded, hands shaking slightly, but determination burning in her eyes. I will try, but it may not hold. Lyra stepped closer to her, placing a hand on her shoulder again. You are not alone. We do this together. The plan was set. The humans and Lyra moved quickly, setting up multiple energy barriers and reinforcing the station's damaged walls. They created false paths, luring the larger Hollow One into a narrow corridor. When it entered, Lyra activated the energy fields, trapping it in place long enough for the humans to strike in unison. Pulse blasts, plasma shots, and coordinated strikes hit the machine from every angle. Sparks flew, metal bent, and the larger Hollow One staggered. But even as it weakened, it did not retreat. Its adaptive programming calculated, recalculated, and prepared for its next move. Hold your ground. Elias shouted, We are stronger together. Focus. The team pressed forward, using their environment to their advantage. They struck weak points, dodged attacks, and pushed the machine toward the next trap. Lyra's energy fields shimmered, creating obstacles that slowed the enemy further. Finally, after an intense struggle, the machine collapsed in a heap of twisted metal and sparks. Silence fell, heavy and tense, but it was only temporary. Through the damaged corridors, the hum of more Hollow Ones could be heard. Elias turned to Lyra, who was breathing heavily but standing firm. You see now, don't you? Humans. We adapt. We survive together. She nodded, eyes wide with awe. Yes, I see you. Humans are not what I expected. You fight, but you think. You protect. I did not understand until now. He offered her a small smile. You never have to fully understand. You just have to act with courage and trust those at your side. That's enough. For the rest of the cycle, they fortified the central chamber and prepared for the next wave. The Hollow Ones were relentless, but so were the humans. Elias organized patrols, set traps, and worked with Lyra to reinforce the station's defenses. Each time a machine adapted, they adapted in turn, creating a deadly dance of strategy and skill. During a brief moment of rest, Lyra approached Elias. Why do you risk yourself so freely? You could retreat. You could save yourselves. Elias looked at her, eyes steady. Because courage is not about avoiding danger. It's about facing it, even when the odds are against you. Because life is worth protecting. And because someone has to step closer, not run. Her gaze softened. Perhaps that is why humans survive. You choose to face the storm rather than hide from it. Outside the station, the stars shone coldly, indifferent to the battle unfolding within. But inside, humans and Valari stood side by side, united by courage and trust. The Hollow Ones would return, yes, but Elias and his team were ready. They had learned to think, adapt, and fight as one, and as the night stretched on, a new realization took hold in Lyra's mind. The humans were not reckless nor foolish. They were something else entirely resilient, determined, and capable of facing any darkness, no matter how impossible it seemed. For the first time since the attack, she felt hope. Not a fragile hope, but one born of unity, courage, and the simple truth that humans did not run. They stepped closer, and now together they would face the storm. The station's corridors trembled under the distant, metallic footsteps of the Hollow Ones. Elias and his team had fortified the central chamber as best they could. But every second the machines drew closer, the tension grew heavier. Outside, the faint light of a distant star barely reached the station, leaving the shadows deep and oppressive. Inside, the humans and Lyra was prepared for a fight that could determine whether any of them survived the night. Elias moved among his team, checking weapons, scanning the environment, and reinforcing barricades with whatever materials were left. The pulse rifles hummed quietly in readiness, and small energy traps blinked faintly, powered by Lyra's devices. Each trap was designed to delay the Hollow Ones just long enough for the humans to strike. Vega approached him, her face pale but determined. "Commander, they're coming in larger numbers now. The traps will hold for a little, but they'll find another way soon." Elias nodded. "Then we fight smarter. Every corridor, every barrier, every shot counts. Humans do not retreat. We hold our ground and adapt. That is how we survive." Lyra hovered near a control panel, her slender hands moving over the holographic interface. "If I amplify the energy pulse one more time," she said, "I can slow them even longer. But it will drain most of the station's remaining power. We must choose carefully." Elias looked at her. "We don't have a choice. We either fight now or we run. And running isn't an option." She hesitated, her eyes flicking between him and the approaching shadows. I usually hide. My people hide. But I see now, you humans. You face danger, you protect each other. I want to help. But what?" Elias asked softly. "But someone must stay behind," she whispered, "to trigger the pulse manually. If I don't, the trap will fail." Elias felt a pang of concern. The energy pulse would be dangerous, perhaps fatal. "Lyra, you don't have to do this alone. We do this together." Her eyes widened. You will stay?" He nodded. "I will not let you face it alone." The humans and Lyra moved quickly to position themselves for the attack. They had learned from previous encounters that the Hollow Ones were adaptive, calculating, and relentless. Every defense they set had to be perfect. Every movement had to be precise. There was no room for mistakes. The first wave arrived. Shadows shifted along the corridors, moving with mechanical precision. Sparks flew as energy shields flared against attacks, and pulse rifles fired in synchronized bursts. Lyra's energy devices shimmered, forming barriers that slowed the machines and guided them toward the traps. Elias stood at the central chamber's threshold, directing the team with calm authority. "Hold the line. Watch your flanks. Trust each other." The Hollow Ones adapted quickly, finding paths around barriers, smashing through debris, and pressing relentlessly toward the humans. But the team moved as one, adjusting positions, shifting tactics, and anticipating the machine's movements. They were faster, smarter, stronger together than the enemy could predict. Lyra activated her energy pulse, sending a wave of force down the corridor to hold the largest machine in place. Sparks danced along its metallic surface as it struggled against the invisible barrier. It is working," she shouted, but her voice trembled with fear. Elias stepped closer to her. "You are not alone. We face this together. Keep going." The Hollow Ones responded with increased aggression. Smaller units darted around the pulse barrier, attempting to flank the humans. While larger units pressed against the energy wave, the station shook under the impact. Debris falling from the ceiling and echoing through the halls, Vega fired at approaching machines, guiding them into traps. Another team member hurled makeshift projectiles to distract the enemy. The humans were exhausted, but their coordination was flawless. Every action was deliberate, every movement calculated. Elias noticed Lyra faltering slightly, her hands trembling as she maintained the pulse. "You can do it," he said firmly. "Just a little longer. We are here. We survived together." Her eyes met his, and for a brief moment the fear in them gave way to determination. She increased the energy pulse, holding the largest hollow one in place, just long enough for the humans to strike its vulnerable points. Sparks and metal fragments flew as the enemy staggered, slowed but not destroyed. Suddenly, a smaller machine slipped past the barricades and charged toward Lyra. Elias reacted instantly, pushing her aside and firing at the intruder. It fell, sparks hissing from its damaged limbs. Lyra's pulse faltered, and Elias reached out to steady her hands. "We must keep going. You are strong. We are strong, together." The energy pulse reached its maximum, and the station trembled violently. Lyra's device began to overheat, the glow of the energy field intensifying to the point where it seemed the entire chamber might be consumed by light. I cannot hold it much longer," she shouted. Elias gritted his teeth. "Then we finish this now. All of us together. Push forward." The team moved in unison, combining human ingenuity and Valari technology to create a coordinated strike. The hollow ones faltered under the barrage of energy, precise attacks, and carefully timed traps. Sparks flew, metal twisted, and for the first time, the machines staggered visibly, their relentless advance slowing. Then came the critical moment. Lyra's device reached its limit. She had to release the energy pulse manually to trigger the trap fully. The risk was enormous, and the humans knew it could cost her life. Elias stepped closer, placing a hand on her shoulder again. "You do this with me? You are not alone." She took a deep breath, nodding, her fear replaced by determination. Together, they activated the pulse. A wave of brilliant energy surged through the station, freezing the hollow ones in place and overloading their circuits. Sparks flew, alarms blared, the mechanical hum that had haunted the corridors for hours finally began to fade. The trap worked. The largest machines collapsed in twisted heaps of metal, and the smaller units were trapped or destroyed. The central chamber was filled with a dazzling glow, then settled into quiet. Silence returned, heavy but victorious. Lyra slumped against the console, exhausted but alive. Elias stood beside her, scanning the station to ensure no threat remained. The team gathered, breathing heavily, but smiles of relief and triumph began to appear. "You humans," Lyra said softly, her voice trembling but steady. "You do not flee. You protect. You survive." Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We survive together. That is what makes us strong. Courage is not about facing danger alone. It's about standing together no matter the odds." Vega smiled faintly. "I have to admit, I didn't expect this to work, but it did, and we survived." Lyra looked around the room, seeing the human team united, confident and unwavering despite exhaustion and fear. She realized that humans were unlike anything she had known, loyal, brave, and unafraid to face darkness head-on. For the first time in days, hope burned brightly in her heart. Perhaps this fight, this night of terror, had revealed a truth she had never understood before. Humans were more than reckless or bold. They were capable of extraordinary courage, and their strength lay not just in skill or technology, but in their willingness to stand for others, even when survival was uncertain outside. The faint light of dawn began to touch the station, casting long shadows along the empty corridors. The stars were still distant and cold, but inside, life had returned. Humans and Valari had survived, and their unity had forged something stronger than fear. Elias looked at Lyra, his expression calm and resolute. "You see now, don't you? Courage isn't just facing the enemy. It's protecting others, acting when it matters most, and never turning away. That is what makes us human." She nodded slowly, understanding in her eyes. "Yes, I see now. underestimated your kind. But now, I understand. You are extraordinary. The team rested briefly, their bodies weary, but their spirits lifted. Outside, the remnants of the Hollow Ones lay scattered, evidence of the humans' resilience. They had survived the storm, not because they were stronger, but because they were united, brave, and unwilling to give up. And as the first light of a new day touched the station, Elias knew that the fight was not over. More challenges awaited. But he also knew that together, they could face anything. For humans did not flee. Humans stepped closer. And sometimes stepping closer was the only way to change the course of destiny. The central chamber of the station was quiet, but the sense of danger lingered like a shadow. The humans and Lyra had survived the first waves of the Hollow Ones, but Elias knew the enemy was not yet defeated. The remaining machines had retreated, regrouped, and would soon return. The team had to prepare for the final confrontation or risk losing everything. Elias moved among his crew, checking weapons, barricades, and energy traps. Vega was at his side, calm but alert. "Commander," she said quietly, "we've done all we can with the station's defenses. Any more waiting, and the Hollow Ones will overwhelm us." "I know," Elias replied. "We don't wait, we act. They may be machines, but they are predictable when we force them into traps. We control the battlefield, and we end this tonight." Lyra, exhausted from maintaining energy barriers and guiding the team, approached Elias. Her skin still shimmered faintly in the dim light, and her eyes were wide with both fear and determination. I can do this," she said softly. We have a chance. But it will require everyone to act perfectly." Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We will. You are not alone. We face this together, and we survive together." The station trembled suddenly, and a deep mechanical hum filled the corridors. The Hollow Ones had returned, moving faster and with a terrifying purpose. Their forms glinted under the flickering lights, multiple units advancing from every direction. "Positions," Elia shouted. "Remember the plan. Keep the corridors narrow. Use traps. Focus fire. Do not panic." The team moved with precision, each member taking a position they had practiced for hours. Vega fired at approaching units, directing them into traps. Lyra activated her devices, forming energy barriers to slow the enemy. Every pulse, every shot, every movement was calculated to maximize effect and minimize risk. The largest Hollow One approached the central chamber, sensors scanning and calculating. Elias could see its massive form pressing against the walls, testing the barriers. Sparks flew as it struck, bending metal and shattering debris. "Hold," Elias yelled. "Do not let it break through. Focus fire." The humans and Lyra responded, hitting weak points, redirecting energy, and using the environment to their advantage. Smaller machines tried to flank the team, but carefully placed traps and barricades slowed them down. The battle was a careful dance of strategy, strength, and teamwork. Lyra Elias shouted over the chaos, the pulse. "Can you trigger the final trap?" Her hands hovered over the controls, trembling, yes. "But it will drain all the station's remaining power." I may not survive the release." Elias stepped closer. "Then we do it together. No one faces this alone." She looked at him, startled, then nodded. Together, the team coordinated carefully. Lyra's device glowed brilliantly as she prepared the final pulse. Elias and the humans positioned themselves around her, protecting her from the approaching machines. Every step had to be precise. A single miscalculation could mean disaster. The first Hollow Ones reached the chamber. The energy pulse began to surge through the station, a wave of pure force that would overload the enemy's circuits. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and the machines struggled against the sudden surge. Lyra's hands shook as she maintained control. Pouring all her strength and courage into the device, Elias placed a steadying hand on hers. "You are not alone. We are here. Focus. Together." The pulse reached its maximum, spreading through the corridors and hitting every Hollow One in its path. Sparks erupted, metal twisted, and the machines froze mid-step, their adaptive programming overwhelmed. The energy surged. Traveling faster than the enemy could calculate, some of the smaller units fell immediately, circuits frying under the intense energy. The larger units, though more resilient, were trapped and slowed, giving the humans time to strike with precision. Pulse rifles, energy blasters, and makeshift projectiles hit simultaneously, exploiting every vulnerability. The chamber shook violently as the final moments of the pulse played out. Lyra gritted her teeth, pushing her fear aside, focusing on the task. Elias stood beside her, calm and firm, radiating strength that steadied the entire team. Finally, the last of the Hollow Ones collapsed in heaps of twisted metal and shattered circuits. The central chamber was filled with smoke and the faint smell of burnt machinery. The energy pulse faded, and silence fell like a heavy blanket. Lyra slumped against the console, breathing heavily, her hands trembling. Elias stepped closer and gently helped her to a chair. "You did it," he said softly. "We did it together." The team gathered, exhausted but victorious. Vega smiled faintly. "I can't believe it. We actually stopped them." Lyra looked around at the humans, her eyes wide with awe and gratitude. You humans, do not run. You protect. You survive. Together." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "We survive together. That is what makes us strong. Courage is not about fighting alone. It's about standing with others, no matter the odds." For the first time since the attack, Lyra felt hope, bright and undeniable. She realized that humans were more than reckless or bold. They were loyal, brave, and capable of extraordinary courage. Their strength lay not just in skill or technology, but in the willingness to act, to protect, and to step closer when others might flee. Outside the station, the distant star began to rise higher, casting a soft glow through the shattered windows. The endless black of space seemed less intimidating now, less lonely. Inside, life had returned, and the humans and Lyra had forged a bond stronger than fear. Elias addressed the team, voice calm but strong. "We've survived this night, but we must remain vigilant. More challenges will come. The galaxy is vast, and danger is everywhere. But if we face it together, there is nothing we cannot overcome." The humans nodded, pride and determination in their eyes. Lyra looked at them, her respect for humanity deepened beyond words. I understand now. Humans, you are extraordinary. Your courage, your loyalty, your determination, it is unlike anything I have ever known." Elias smiled faintly. "And now you are part of that. Together, we are stronger than any darkness." The team rested briefly, tending to minor injuries and repairing the station's remaining systems. Outside, the wreckage of the Hollow Ones lay scattered, evidence of humanity's resilience. They had faced an enemy designed to erase life and had survived through unity, strategy, and courage. Lyra joined Elias at the observation window, looking out at the stars. I thought my people were strong. But humans, you are something else entirely. Loyal, brave, and unafraid to face impossible odds." Elias looked at her, calm and resolute. "We don't always face the odds alone. We face them together. Courage is not measured by fear or strength alone. It is measured by the willingness to protect life, even when survival is uncertain. That is what makes us human." For the first time in days, Lyra allowed herself to relax. Hope no longer felt fragile, it felt real. She understood now why humans were capable of surviving against overwhelming darkness. Their strength was in unity, trust, and the simple yet profound courage to step closer when others might flee. Outside, stars shone brightly, indifferent but beautiful. Inside, humans and Valari had survived, stronger and wiser than before. They had faced the darkness, and through bravery, unity, and courage, they had won. Elias turned to Lyra, offering a small smile. "You see now, don't you? Stepping closer is not reckless, it is the first step to changing the future." She nodded slowly, Understanding. Yes, I see. I will remember this. Humanity. You are more than I imagined. And together, perhaps, we can protect more than just ourselves. As the Horizon's Edge prepared to leave the ruined station, Lyra joined the humans on board, ready to continue the mission. The bond formed in the heart of danger was strong, and it would guide them through the challenges to come. The station remained behind, silent but victorious. The Hollow Ones were defeated for now. Humanity had survived. Humanity had stood where others might have fled, and together, humans and Valari would step forward into the galaxy, stronger, braver, and united. The story ended not in fear, but in hope, in courage, and in the unwavering truth that humans did not run. Humans stepped closer, and sometimes that simple act of courage changed everything.